Today, we're diving into one of the most powerful and, honestly, most important tools in all of Python, lists. They might seem simple on the surface, but trust me, getting good at these is the key to unlocking pretty much everything else. So, let's get right into it. But before we even write a single line of code, let's just step back and think for a second. Imagine any programming project, right? It could be a simple to-do app on your phone or a super complex tool for analyzing scientific data. They seem totally different. But what's the one thing they all have in common? What do they absolutely need to work?
You got it. They all need a way to handle groups of stuff. A bunch of tasks, a series of numbers, a list of users. And in Python, our go-to #1 tool for that job is the list. It's the container you're going to be reaching for over and over again.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll talk about why lists are so crucial. Then, we'll get our hands dirty creating and grabbing items from them. We'll uncover their secret weapon, mutability. Then we'll open up a whole toolkit of built-in methods, learn a couple of pro-level tricks, and finally, we'll put it all together to build something you can actually use. First things first, why should you care so much about lists? Well, to put it simply, they are the foundation for so many other ideas in programming. If you understand lists, you're building a really strong base for everything that comes next. All right, let's get to the fun part, creating and accessing lists. This is where we learn the basic mechanics, the actual blueprint for how we're going to structure our data. So, what exactly is a Python list? Well, the official definition has 3 key parts. It's ordered, it's changeable, and it allows duplicates. Ordered just means that items stay in the exact position you put them. Changeable, or as you'll hear programmers say, mutable, means you can alter it after you've made it. And allows duplicates, well, that one's pretty self-explanatory. You can have the same thing in there more than once. Easy enough, right? And here's the best part. Making a list is ridiculously easy. All you need are some square brackets and commas. And just look at how flexible this is. You can have a list of numbers, a list of strings like names, or you can even get wild and mix data types all in the same list. That's super, super powerful. Okay, so you've put your stuff in a list. How do you get it out? You use its index, which is just its position. Now, here's probably the most important rule to remember when you start programming. We always start counting from 0. So the very first item is at index 0. But Python has this really cool shortcut. If you need the last item, you don't need to know how long the list is. You just use -1. It's a lifesaver. Let's see how that works. If we have our list of numbers, number 0 gives us, you guessed it, the first item, 10. And if we use numbers -1, boom, we instantly get the last item, 40. It's just a really clean and smart way to get what you need from either end of the list. Now let's talk about a concept that really gives lists their power, mutability. It sounds like a fancy word, but all it means is that lists are not set in stone. They're alive, they're dynamic, and you can change them whenever you want. And changing an item couldn't be simpler. You just target the item you want to change using its index. So here we're targeting index 1, which is the number 20, and you just assign it a new value. And just like that, the original list is changed. The 20 is gone, and 200 is in its place. That right there is mutability in action. Okay, it's time to open up the toolbox. Python doesn't just give you lists, it gives you a whole set of built-in tools called methods that are specifically designed to work with lists and make your life way easier. Here are 5 of the big ones you're going to use all the time. Append and insert are for adding things, remove is for, well, removing things, and sort and reverse are for shuffling the whole list around. Let's take a closer look at a couple of these pairs. So when you're adding items, you've got 2 main options. Append is your simple go-to tool. It just tacks whatever you give it on to the very end of the list. Quick and easy. But insert is like your surgical tool. It lets you be really precise, telling it exactly which position you want the new item to go. Now, it's really important to know the difference between sort and reverse. Sort is smart. It actually looks at the values inside the list and rearranges them in order, from smallest to largest. Reverse, on the other hand, it doesn't care about the values at all. It just takes the list and flips it backwards. 2 very different ways to change the order. All right, you've got the fundamentals down pat. It's time to level up a little bit with a couple of slightly more advanced but incredibly useful techniques, slicing and looping. Slicing is exactly what it sounds like. It lets you grab a piece or a slice of your list. The syntax is start, end. And the one thing you really got to remember is that it includes the start item, but it stops before it gets to the end item. You can even leave one of the numbers off to go from the very beginning or all the way to the very end. It is such a great way to zoom in on just the data you need. But what if you want to do the same thing to every single item in your list? You're not going to write the same line of code 100 times, right? Of course not. That's what loops are for. A for loop is like an assembly line. It takes each item from your list, one by one, and lets you run the exact same operation on it. It is the absolute standard for processing a whole collection of data. Okay, we've gone through a lot of theory. Now for the really fun part. Let's put all these skills together and build something real. We're going to build a classic first project, a shopping list. The logic here is super straightforward and it uses everything we've just learned. Step 1, we start with a totally empty list. Step 2, we use that .append method to add our items, milk, bread, whatever. And step 3, we use a for loop to go through our final list and print everything out nicely. And there you have it, the final result. With just an empty list, a few appends, and a simple loop, you've actually built a useful little program. This really proves how these basic building blocks are all you need to start creating some really cool stuff. So now you have the tools. A shopping list is just the beginning. Think about it. A list can hold anything. A list of users for your new app. A list of high scores for a game you're making. A list of coordinates for plotting points on a map. The possibilities are, quite literally, endless. So the only question left is, what are you going to build next?